God. Podcasting is so easy.
So easy.
Do you know how many times I have to edit that out of myself every week we do this? And I say podcasting is easy, and I have to edit it out because I'm an idiot.
I vote that you just leave it in. I vote that you start this episode with, "Hi, I'm Sam. Podcasting's fucking easy." Today on At the Table, we dicking about. Well, we just gonna talk about some shit. Whatever I fucking want. I'm a white guy. People will listen to me. Here are my opinions on frogs. They're great. I like the feet.
Thanks for tuning in to At the Table. Tonight we have Jess and I this evening. Hello, Jess.
Hi, Jess. Oh, hi, Sam. Sorry.
Yeah, see, I got you. I didn't say hi, Jess. I said, it's Jess. And you went, hi, Jess.
In my defense, it's already been a long week for 7:40 p.m. on a Monday. It's been a real long week. Oh.
Yeah.
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 Yesterday was the accumulation of the Moonlighters campaign that I've been running over on Questing Time.
Mm-hmm.
It was the most incredible blender of emotions that ended in a way I was not expecting. I couldn't have planned.
Nope.
Nope. None of that. None of that nice, neat tie in a bow. I've got a plan for this nonsense. It was compounded by the fact that one of our players had to drop out in sort of the last half hour of the session.
I honorably retreated from the field of battle, yes.
Yeah, and this is the thing, is that when you are streaming it and someone goes, I've got to go, you have to continue. And you have to go, oh, we can drop out, or we can play this into the story. How does this go next? Which we did. And I initially thought it was going to be a really funny death scene that we were going to plan for Charlie. When I realized you weren't there, I was like, fuck it, he bursts. Ha 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 ha. What I may have done in that moment is overestimated how attached everybody was to Charlie.
Yeah, I didn't fucking realize. Okay, here's the skinny, right? I know you've all gone back and watched the VOD because you're good listeners. Thank you very much, Jordan, for going back. It's really nice to hear your voice, Jordan. So I was just unable to make it. My partner was ill, so I had to just drop out and leave. Okay, and I was like, everything's fine. I just can't play D&D. I need to look after my partner. And so I messaged this, but I also just turned off my camera and disappeared. Whereas the lovely Paul Foxcroft has curated a series of our webcam images in certain templates. So everybody else is reacting with their beautiful LED lights behind them. And your boy is in a 70s bedroom and his camera blacks out as if I've just been captured by some faction of the Norfolk Alliance Independent Republic. And then the players hadn't realized I typed into the chat, can't make it, gotta go. And they're just like, where's Charlie? And just it's okay. I have a plan. What was your plan, Jess?
Oh, the plan was just to immediately eliminate you.
Correct.
No, it was a move I believe that Charlie would have committed. I believe he would have done it if he had the option.
Game recognized game.
Yeah, well, you had been asked earlier in the episode if you would be willing to betray the entire party for life as a beautiful, effervescent gem dragon.
And of course I would, within a drop of a hat.
But you said no. And in
it was
that
close.
I wanted to tease it out a little bit. I really wanted that, and then I saw the time and I was like, we don't have time. Okay, that's fine. We've got the question out there, though.
That's the calculation I also made. I was there delicious, delicious drama, or bedtime. Okay, right, here we go.
But you played it out, styled it out so well, denied yourself the dragon form forever, and became the god of what was it in the God's Blood that you were the god of smut.
I was the god of smut. Thank you.
Yes. Again, This is a random table I created several weeks ago and completely forgot about, and so pulled it out and went, yep, these are the effects now. Fantastic. They are what you make them. God of Smart put himself in between a psychic attack from a greater Starspawn enmity.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. That.
Enmity. Emily. Go Emily Minty, and then just skip out some of the middle ones. That's actually harder to say now that I've thought about that.
Yeah, now it hurts.
Emily Minty.
Regardless, did that. A psychic wave attack would have put something close to 15 to 20 d8 damage onto each of the players. Charlie, at this point, dropped out, and made more sense for Charlie to take all of that damage as the God of Smart invading the mind of the Starspawn Enmity. So you died heroically.
Doing what I always loved.
Yep. I applaud you for such a wonderful body on the line moment. However, all is not lost. There is talk of a clone that you have stashed somewhere in the universe, as if you knew this was going to happen. Or maybe a twin. Who knows?
What incredible foresight I had.
Yeah, right? And by that I mean, BB, your ship's little cabin boy / captain / whatever he needs to be, is very much like, Charlie told me a thing. I just thought he was lying. But I guess not now.
Yeah, I was watching it. I was like, oh, interesting. Let's see where this goes.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I needed Nacho to stop crying. I felt so bad.
The mood did somewhat change. It wasn't like we've defeated Liz and one of our heroes has come along the way. Everyone's there like, I mourn for Liz and I mourn for Charlie. And I was there like, we are at episode 10. Pick it up. We've got a lot of stuff to do.
It was, again, it was a roller coaster and a mix of emotion for everyone. I couldn't have predicted. I thought everyone was going to be super stoked, super happy. And it was no, everybody is crying and weeping and sobbing and having to then roll with that and be like, everything's not as bad as you think it is. Look at all the new friends you've made. They're all your ex-spouses? Fantastic. Isn't that nice?
Fantastic. Love it.
Just, you got an eye that's horny for a cat. It's just so much going on here. There are so many loose ends, so many incredible loose ends that if people wanted to come back and play, they can. We've left that bit nice and open. But yeah, so that was my emotionally exhausting Sunday evening, which you guys then topped off by saying thank you with presents and announcing so as a DM, right? I don't mind streaming every week and being like, cool, here is the world. I will describe to you and be the center of attention for this bit. And here are all of these characters and I'll act like a dick to the camera, no problem. The minute that people are like, let's be nice to her. Let's be nice. Let's be so loving and adoring and have put so much thought into these things that we will now present to you for giving us a story that we liked. I crumbled. I imploded in on myself faster than a dying fucking star. It was so hard to sit there and not just melt. It was so difficult, and I just felt myself stuttering and stammering, and that was the hardest part of all of that, because I wasn't expecting that at all. But by your DM's presence, it's real nice. They love creating the thing that they have made for you, and watching you enjoy the thing is gift enough. But if you can buy them a thank you present, Jesus Christ, you change the dynamic.
You've been hurting us for 10 episodes. Here's a gift.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mommy's here to step on your toes. I believe it's something. And you will say thank you.
I was obviously off stream, and then I was hopping into the Twitch chat. I was like, yeah, I'm okay. Just carry on. Oh, wow. Ooh, fun. And then I noticed things were wrapping up, and I was there shit. I was meant to give the presents. Deploy Sasha. So I just messaged in the secret group that we had. So if you see on Paul's phone that there's a group called We're Just Normal Men, that's me, motherfucker.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't think anything of it. I was
No.
just like, oh,
We're
that's a
just
good meme.
normal men. We're just ordinary men.
You just assumed it was just a chat, and I'm joking, between some really boring people because it
What?
was.
Well, because also I had named it Secret Present Group, and then Paul pointed out, yes, but just may see my phone. And I went, good point. Let's name it a meme that we've shared. Excellent, done. And then so I was like, deploy Sasha. And then Sasha right at the end was like, oh, by the way, we've got a gift. And I saw the look in your eyes where you were there like, no.
Just fear, abject fear. Like, no, you can't be.
Brute?
You are at the end of a campaign of an idea that you had months ago, and you've watched people have a really nice time, and they're telling you they've had a really nice time, and then you are in your single most emotionally vulnerable state, and they go, "We've done a really nice thing for you," and broken, so broken, in the best way possible. But I remember when we finished the stream, I wept pretty openly for a while. I wasn't willing to do that on stream, but I was willing to do it just to everyone afterwards. Paul came over, had to give me a hug to calm me down. Like it was very nice. It was very lovely for something so nonsensical and ridiculous. But yeah, everyone couldn't stop saying how nice a time they'd had and how much fun they'd had, and that was all the gift I wanted. And I'm glad that I got to bring 4 people together who gelled so well and had such a nice time in the same space, developing characters that were as batshit as one another. It was lovely. I had a really good time. And I'm very, 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 very bloody lucky that you were involved and part of it, and you managed to gel that group together in such a unique and special way. It just makes my heart full. So yeah, today and yesterday has been emotionally brimming for me. So I'm still a little frazzled, a little might burst into tears and a little bit of that. But yeah,
Listeners at home, if you want to make your DM cry, get them nice things. They're not used to you being nice back to them. Just like, hey, thanks, I really appreciate everything you do and all that work you put in after all the time. They're like, okay, yeah, but why? What's the trap? What's the trap? Okay? Is this going to be full of shit? Like, what's happening?
No,
and just make it nice.
I think you should buy your DMs nice things every now and again.
Weekly.
Donuts is my big go-to. Whenever we have a session, I am like, there are snacks for people and whatever they need, but there are donuts for the DM. That's my thing. I don't know why donuts. I just feel like you can't not like a donut. Everybody like donut.
Everybody like donut.
Exactly. But treat your DM, because my God, when they break, it'll be something for the ages. Like, this is how legends are born. It's lovely. It's lovely to feel as appreciated as I do right now. And this is what I really love about TTRPGs, is that you come away from so many games feeling a sense of accomplishment, and like a good story was told.
Yeah, we did.
It's not
we actually did something when what we did was sit for 4 hours for 10 weeks and just shout at each other.
40-hour story. It was nice. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. But aside from our Moonlighters nonsense, what have you been up to?
I've been playing, like, all of the games that I've been playing recently have been the best TTRPG games that I've ever played. Like, Moonlighters has been absolutely sick and hilarious. Dragonlance has been it's
another
cinematic
level. Yes,
it's incredible.
Ooh. You have a DM as good as Jordan, who is able to set a scene and knows all of the right mechanics to employ with every tone change, every mood, every fight, every piece of dialogue. He knows how to facilitate all of us. And then we each are bouncing off one another in a way that is not intrusive, is respectful, and is also pushing for that lore. We are, I don't know, it's such a good group and it's such a great setting.
It feels like when you've got to the right gear on your push bike, like you're there, like, I'm in the right gear, I'm going the right speed. And I can see Jordan's still like growing into which is incredible to think. Like, basically, we had, well, not spoilers for if you're playing Dragonlance, but we had a really tough fight. It's the first big fight, and we had to run from it.
Yeah.
Because they downed.
God. Half the party in one blow. That was not expected or wanted or good in any way.
And it's not one of those, you just have to hit the bad guys until they fall down. It was like, we have a primary objective, and the secondary objective is hitting the bad guys until they fall down. And so we were just like, go now, flee. Just like, and the cinema of it was just incredible. Yeah.
It felt, even for a level 3 character, is where we're level 3 at this point. It felt so high stakes. Yeah. It felt like we were level 20. And I've not had that feeling as a low level player in a player, particularly in a campaign before. I've never felt that level of fear for the continuation of a game. So usually I will call a character something ridiculous, like Walmart, so that I don't get attached to them and I can just let them die and be like, cool. I bring up their sister, Asda, and, we continue. If anything happens to any single one of the party, I kill everyone in the room and then myself. Like, I'm so invested in this story and the group and the dynamic that we have that I am mortally afraid to change it. I'm also aware of how my character perceives that as well, and the lengths that they're willing to go to protect that. It's enigmatic.
It's amazing. Yeah, we're having the best time in Dragonlance, and that's wild. And then my home game that I play offline, we just had a really incredible non-combat session. I wanted to do something funky like a wish, but I had it so every person and NPC can make a wish. However, there's a 50% chance it will turn into a curse. So all the players had to then convince all the NPCs to not submit their wishes.
Oh my god, okay. That's a great twist.
Some people put in some wishes and some curses were made. And some wishes are granted that they won't find out. And I got to just play some really funky people. I haven't made it, but I've made a lineage of slug people. Snail people. And they just kind of speak like, God, I swear it was on like Treasure Planet. There's like a slug type monster that just makes fart noises or something. I can't remember. It's either Treasure Planet or like Titan AE. It's one of the Don Bluth films.
It sounds like a Rick and Morty thing.
It does sound like a Rick and Morty.
Like the farting slug monster has become a bit of a trope. I mean, God, Jelly was it in Moonlighters? Like,
yes.
Farting is a language, baby. That's basically what we're doing with our mouths, but it's controlled.
Oh God,
I don't know
it's Jelly as well. It's a very slow snail monster that wants to be the best warrior in the world.
Oh no!
I'd made a little frog man who wants to be a poet, and then from A Darkened Wish, I stole B Dave's twin. The twins from A Darkened Wish. I love them. They're in. But yeah, they were just NPCs with conflicting narratives, and all my players remembered the lore without being prompted. Everyone did cool like RP chat, and like loads of people had really interesting ideas, and it was just popped off. So yeah, I'm playing the best RPGs I've ever played. So I'm just like, I'm on one.
We're in our hot girl TTRPG summer era. Yeah, fantastic. I'm absolutely stoked for the two of us. I can see it now. Like, people that don't get as into it as maybe we do are training their bodies hard down at the gym, ready to go to Ibiza or whatever people that go outside and touch grass do in the summer. But we are steeling our blades Again.
We are reading the Dragonlance poems and degendering them because boy do they gender. Boy does Dragonlance enjoy a particular gender.
Oh God.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we're just having a great time. And tell you what, I will say, if you are hungry for such incredible content, I would get yourself down to Patreon. And get onto the Patreon for Worlds Without Number. Okay. Here's the sell. Right. It's Brennan Lee Mulligan. It's Erika Ishii. It's Abria Iyengar. It's Lou Wilson. Okay? Just think of that talent pool and imagine just like they're playing the home game, because it is a home game, and they've said, we're going to be playing this for X number of years. And they're like, 10 years minimum. And you're like,
Oh,
interesting.
shit.
Yeah. So they're like, okay, we're going to set up some real long story stuff. I was like, okay, fine. Yeah, that sounds fun. And then it is audio produced. Like someone is coming in, adding music, sound effects. It is incredible to listen to. Worlds Without Number is on a different level. It's incredible. If you go to the Patreon, you can get additional content that you'll never get anywhere else, which is how the characters come to be. Now, it is a child bit, and some of them are doing some child acting. So if that sets your teeth on edge, maybe give it a skip.
Yeah.
But God, is it good?
Okay. Look, so as somebody who has just a thing, I don't want to call it a phobia. Maybe it is. Only a licensed therapist can tell me, and I'm too afraid to get there. I have a thing about adults acting like kids. I've never really been good with it. I don't know why. It just really puts my hackles up, sets me on edge. Hate it. There is a section at the beginning where they all pretend to be children, and I am going to wait, I think, a bit until more episodes have come out, and then I will subscribe, and then I will move past it to the point where people are able to surmise what has happened in this childhood section, and then I can go, cool, I'm going to ignore all of that and just go straight in at the adult bit where they've all grown up and where the big adventure starts. Hopefully this isn't going to take years.
No. So the child bit is literally half of the first episode that they did in the Patreon thing. It's about 20 minutes of them being a kid and then their adult self, and it's kind of reflecting about how they got there. Yeah.
No.
If you're not about it, that's all right. But like,
it's weird.
There's there's 4 episodes to start with, and you're like, oh, hang on, one of them has to be the DM. Okay. There's 4 episodes, and the 4th episode is Brennan doing the narration of one of the NPCs that's going to follow the party. And for 15 minutes of that is woodland sounds. And I had to turn off my headphones and figure out what was happening, because the woodland sounds we're playing were spring sounds that are happening in, Eastern England at this time. And I was like, what? It was so auditorily incredibly, I can't even speaketh. It's just, the audio direction that they're going for is really good. I was a little bit put off by their first roundtable interview, but it sounds like they're recording on different equipment. The sound quality for all the mics is good. They're recording in a proper podcast studio, and someone is putting in music sound effects that are matching to the descriptions. It's not stock sound effects. These are like, they've tailored it in. It's really good. I urge you to check it out.
So what I think this is going to do, specifically for the Dimension 20 Critical Role subset of talent that produce things like this in the future, is this is going to set a precedent. The Patreon release before any of the episodes dropped, it was very much a hype thing. It was some of your favorite voices, some of your favorite characters are playing together in a brand new thing. Will it work? Who knows? Within the first day, I think they had 10,000 Patreon subscribers. They're now closing in on 22,000. This is a very lucrative business now. And if this is just the home game, they're able to sustain a level of professionality and craftsmanship within the entire campaign that they play to the very end. I think we can look out for in the future definitely more crossovers between Critical Role, Dimension 20, but also more things like this where you will get 4 of your favorites are playing in a game, pay £5 a month to listen in, whatever it may be. But we're going to see more and more and more of them, particularly from this subset. So that I guess the pool widens. That talent pool cannot stay the same sort of 30-ish people forever. It's going to continue to widen as they bring more people in, and more projects like this will spin off. But it's really interesting to think that this is the new norm and the new medium.
I think it's very interesting to see stuff go from stuff like openly available podcasts and stuff on Twitch streams or like in YouTube's where there are big ad breaks. It's dependent on the distributor, like how you create and distribute that content, to, as you say, paid for Patreon podcasts where you're like, this is £5 a month, but like there are no ads. We don't have to change it depending on like the length of the show. There's no like ads in between. We don't have to like say certain things or market ourselves to particular people. Like obviously like Words Without Number, I think is going to be fairly well accessible. I don't think it's going to be like, well, there's some pretty hard and fast things going to happen here. So, you know, watch yourself. But like, I can definitely see kind of little, I guess siloing is the best term I can put up with, but it doesn't feel like that they're withdrawing away from the rest of the world. I think it's going to be like old theaters. It's going to be like, hey, this theater does this kind of thing.
New companies spread up and split out, again, to increase the pool of talent that they have under the TTRPG umbrella. It makes sense. But again, like I said, it's a lucrative business at this point. These guys are pulling in more than $110,000 a month off of Worlds Beyond Number alone, right? That's more than $1 million a year for one project. It would be so silly not to capitalize on that. And I do think that we will see more of that coming through from that space. I wish more of it could be free. I really do. That is not the world we live in. Capitalism, baby. So their time costs money.
Yeah.
And they've made it happen and they've made it work. And if this is the model that is set forth going forward for something like this to have a proven fan base in order to be like a 10-year campaign going forward, fantastic. Brilliant. Will they see such success with other people and other groups and other silos siphoned off and other things? Maybe. Will people flip between paying Patreon 1 month for this, paying Patreon another month for that? What will come forward to mesh everything together is what I'm quite interested in, because there's only so much money you can spend on audio dramas per month. Trust me, I've tried. But it'll be interesting to see how this develops into the grand scheme of the overarching LA TTRPG crowd community sort of funding, effectively. But I think they're doing really bloody well so far. And I'm excited to eventually listen to it once the children's adventure thing is out of the way.
I think it is now time for us to introduce our interview with. So we had a couple of weeks ago. Time's irrelevant, people. Pretend we just record this just now. We talked to SuperDillin, and we were really interested to talk about gender and TTRPGs and how that's a heady mix. And so we had a kind of open table interview type discussion. And yeah, it's incredible. And so I hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone. This week, I'd like to talk to you about Bohannon Brigade. I've reached out to them because I've been using some of their products, and I think they're very, very good. So soon, we'll be talking about session prep. I think it's very pertinent to some of the GMs that we talk to about how they run their games. And I think something that nearly comes up every single time with people we talk to who run games, they say, I wish I did more session prep. I don't think that's the answer. I think you should do better session prep. One of the things that I've recently picked up that has massively improved the way I prep and the time I spend prepping is the DM bundle from Bahana Brigade. I was looking for a template that I could basically expand what I was going to plan, what did I need to do, and how do I execute that. And also, with the DM bundle, you've also got a sheet for stuff like cities, NPCs, combat tracker, and mid-session note prep and post-session notation, which is always very important because after you finish the session, all I want to do is fall asleep. But if you write down just a couple of things and just say, that's it, that's done. Oh, wait, they did this, this, and this, and they also met this, and what does that mean for the story? You're done. I recommend going over to their store on Etsy. I'll be putting a link in the show notes, but also check out The Tower of the Scarlet Robes, which is a little mini adventure that he's written as well. I really find that my prep is much better and a lot smoother, and my players definitely notice that I'm spending better time prepping for the things that actually matter and less time figuring out how my notes work. That's Bohannon Brigade on Etsy. Thank you for joining us for our interview section. We are interviewing SuperDillin. Hi, Dylan.
Hi. How are you?
Very good. Thank you so much for making time for us today. It's been a real pleasure talking to you just before we started recording. For those of you at home, Dylan, you may have heard on the Adventuring Academy, the Dimension 20 show, The Atomless, and on Unprepared Casters, a very funky little podcast, which is very unhinged and it's always a unique show to listen to. Dylan, where else have people seen or heard of your work?
Oh, wow. So you may know me in one of two ways, primarily. Let's say 1 in 3. So one of the things that I do is I write tabletop RPGs. Some of my most popular, I wrote a Neverland setting supplement for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I wrote a game which is coming into a physical copy shortly called Guys and Chairs, which is a game in which you play the unremarkable best friends of superheroes. And many other games, most of which are available for free right now. You may have heard me from that. You may have heard me from one of the many Dungeons and Dragons or tabletop RPG podcasts and streams that I'm a part of. The Atomless is a very big one that I'm a part of right now and have been for just over a year. I was a player in the 11th arc of Unprepared Casters, and I mean many more. And then you might just know me because I scream and scream on Twitter, a hell of my own creation.
Oh, that's a mood.
So could be any one of those.
I will say we were talking about this just before we started recording. One of the games that you've written, They Don't Want You to Work. It's really fun. I've pinned it to my browser now, and I can certainly see like how that's going to be really helpful for me in my day job, where I'm like my brain's drifting away.
Yeah,
and
it's not any fault of your own. It's the Fae. They don't want you to work. They're the ones that are pulling you away, and they're forcing you to play a little mini game before you can return your focus back to your task at hand.
Exactly.
Like this is. In my opinion, like this is the perfect excuse to avoid accountability and responsibility in any given situation, and
That's what I'm here
here for it.
Yeah,
this is what we have needed since the dawn of time, in my opinion.
A fun little reward to get yourself off and then back on task. As someone who's profoundly ADHD, this is exactly what I need in my life.
It's adjacent to getting that little plugin where the duck comes and steals your cursor and like moves things around Like, oh, I can't work today. Look at this mess.
It's not my fault. Everything went away. Yeah. It's not your fault. It's my
There's a
fault.
plugin where a duck steals your cursor.
Yeah, I will find that for you after the show.
Perfect. Thank you.
So, yes, Dylan, we wanted you on the show today because we were talking about gender the other day in one of our other shows, and CJ was like, "Hey, we should get SuperDillin on to talk about gender."
Yeah, I'm very gender, so I'm happy to be a part of this discussion.
Thank you for gendering with us today.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
gendering very hard today.
We're an assortment of gender here
Yes.
on this podcast, and it's a good assortment.
Yeah, like
Yes.
at least 250% gender. Like I
Yeah.
think that's like the baseline we should be working at.
It's a variety pack.
But I actually weirdly I don't think on the oh no we have in the previous sort of gender discussion we've never really sort of looked at our pronouns.
That's true. Very vaguely, we've.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
Yeah. Let's do it. I don't know why it feels like Beyblade Arena for some reason. I'm Jess,
Got your
and I am
genders ready?
Arena.
Let them rip.
Yeah, Jess coming at you with the they blades. They blades.
Yes.
They
That's what
blades.
they are.
There it is.
Beyblades. Perfection.
Fabulous. Okay. Yeah. So I'm Jess coming at you with the with the they. No, that's CJ.
That's me.
That's fuck my life.
We're always a disaster. So
She,
welcome,
they.
welcome to the dumpster fire, Dylan.
I'm happy. I'm just happy. I can only go up from here.
So, just to restate, Jess's preferred pronouns are she, they.
Yes.
We'll take it.
And CJ, what are yours?
My preferred pronoun is they, them, but I am very gender flexible and do not mind he or she. My only stipulation with the people who know me is I ask that they don't exclusively use she, especially if it feels pointed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. I understand that very much. Yes.
So, the quick and easy answer is always they, them, please. But, realistically, it's actually fine. Anything's fine. I smacked myself on the desk.
Yeah, it's the anything's fine, but it's sort of like how, like condoms are like 96%, like with perfect use, but with like general use, it drops down to 87. So you have to stimulate. It's like, yeah, my pronouns are hypothetically everything, but for the general public, I really need to.
In this situation, I'm just going to need you to pull out and use they, them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But yes, so that's fine. We'll save our guest for last. So Sam, what are your preferred pronouns if you're good?
I'm good. Sorry, just
I'm destroyed. I'm done.
I really appreciate a well inured and explored metaphor with it's just well done. Excellent play between our guests. Hi, I'm Sam. I use he him. Yeah, that suits me just fine. I don't think anyone's misgendered me because I do look like those kind of like front garden gnomes. So put a little red hat on me. They're like, hey, that's a little fella. That's a little guy.
It's a little guy.
Yeah. I feel you've had a very it'll be interesting or good to have the perspective of someone who's just had a very easy time coming into their gender.
That is nice.
Yeah,
I'm happy for you, Sam.
I am too.
I understand that my narrative is underserved within this discussion.
I wanted you had been joking about that, and I wanted to say, because this is certainly not the first time I've talked about gender related things on a podcast, and once upon a time on my own podcast, which is now no longer currently running, but we have an episode archived of Femsplained, where we talked about our gender identities, me and Avalon. And we had Avalon's husband there with us, who normally just does a little blurb at the start of the podcast called the Mansplain Minute, where he confidently explains our topic in under a minute for us without any prior knowledge.
Incredible.
But for the gender one, we thought it would be very funny because he too is a very confidently and happily cis straight man. And he said sort of the same thing at the start, where he was like, of course I'm, so qualified to talk about this topic. And then as a joke, accidentally made the most beautiful metaphor for gender that I have ever heard that perfectly describes how I feel, in which he said, and I'll try to paraphrase it without taking up too much time, but he said that, when talking to or about Dylan, there can be one of three things. And then he described three of his favorite cups in his house. A number one dad glass, a tulip glass, and a souvenir steel mug from that he got from a day fair with unlimited refills that cost $36. And he described those three things as my three identities. And it like he was very much joking, but at the end I was like, nailed it though.
Wow.
You got it. Yeah, so I just think that it's interesting to include you in this discussion anyway, even though you may not have had this experience, because you never know what you're gonna either get out of it or stumble upon when you're in it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I have to say that I'm very lucky. Gosh, I don't know how to word this. I'm very lucky to have a number of straight cisgender men that are actually really empathetic, cool dudes in my life. That is something that, some people do struggle with. But I will say, knowing Sam, that I was... It felt natural. It was like, well, yeah, of course we'll have him in on this discussion. And of course he'll have some things to say, and he's going to be very empathetic, and, he's going to give a shit. So it'll be great. So, not to embarrass you in front of everyone, Sam, but I have some confidence in you.
I'm blushing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. That's very sweet of you to say.
Now, don't fuck up, Sam.
The tightrope has been made taut.
You've been put on a real high pedestal as the good cis straight guy. So don't fuck it up.
It's opinion time for the lads.
All right, and with that, I'm gonna sit quite confidently in the other corner and go, at some point Sam's gonna say something and we're all gonna go bad. It's awful.
I haven't. I like that we're hedging bets now, but I never necessarily believed that things would go perfect. I just have confidence in Sam to handle things with grace.
Yes,
Sam and I go back a long, long time. We've been friends since we were in our teens, so I can quite confidently say I have all confidence in Sam, and I know he is a wonderfully empathetic human being, and I would wish nothing more than for him to fuck up right now. I just think it would be wonderful.
I was about to say, we've gone long enough padding the cis person on look, you're fine, don't worry, you're not going to harm anyone, please just be quiet.
Just sit down, be good.
But I never answered the question.
I forgot
to do that
Dylan.
part. But yeah, I ask that people use she, he, and they pronouns for me. And I mean, my expectations are low, but that's what I prefer.
And And I mean, I will say about our whole patting the cis guy on the back and telling him it's going to be okay. I do think that there is room for everyone in gender discussion if you've got your listening ears on. So
Oh yes.
let's hit the ground running, I guess.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Jess?
I was going to say, yeah, it feels like a topic that has been demonized. No, it's a topic that has been demonized and weaponized by communities that don't want to talk about it. And I think they're making, especially online, they make the gender discussion sound a lot scarier than it is, and I hate it. So
Yeah.
if we can make it even slightly funny or slightly dumb or slightly like a Beyblade arena, then I'm here for it. I just think that like these are the discussions hopefully that will impact the way that the next generation of TTRPG players come into the space and go, cool, I can be anything I want and I have no biases whatsoever. That is the dream future, but whether or not that happens because of this one podcast is probably that might be hedging it too much.
I have all the confidence that this one episode of a very new podcast is going to change the world, Jess.
Why not? Let's have confidence in something. Why not this? Fuck it.
Absolutely.
But no, like, because TTRPGs for me, as just sort of like as a launch point into the topic, TTRPGs for me are what made me question my the way I perceived not only my own identity, my gender identity, and also my sexual identity as well. So that's the whole trifecta of it all, and it made me more able to empathize and realize that it's so fluid. And I just had never clicked before I started role playing, and that opened up an entire new world for me. And also in terms of like body confidence and I've had this body dysmorphia since a very young age, and the whole system and the way it was able to open up my mind to different possibilities and different perspectives changed everything. TTRPGs are the reason I identify as she, they, and I love blurring the line sometimes. And sometimes I go masc and sometimes I go femme. But it was the stepping stone that led me into it. So yes. I am very passionate about that in particular. And I think that the more that kids play TTRPGs, they should be told, like, don't just, you don't have to stick to being a guy just because you're a guy. Go
and
forth.
I have friends who have discovered things about their own sexuality, gender, XYZ, like the whole 9 yards, by playing different types of characters, different genders, so on and so forth. But I also have friends, like completely cis straight male friends, who are like, I like playing girls. And that's okay too. But it's really fascinating that, you know, you don't get that opportunity to be something else, be someone else, or be who you really are unless you give yourself the chance to jump into it.
Right. It's a very safe way to do so because it doesn't come with the real world risks associated with that kind of experimentation. So you are presumably playing around with this little gender toolbox that exists inside the land of make-believe. And you are doing that with presumably your group of friends or possibly your family or what have you. But you're not doing it out in public, and you can kind of safely play with that toolbox until you find something that fits, and the thing that fits may be the thing that you entered the toolbox with, but either way, you're still playing around, you're still experimenting, and then you can still come out the other side more equipped to face the challenge of going out into the real world with that.
And it's low risk, you know?
Yes.
I know you kind of covered that as well, but it's very much like you don't even have to out yourself to your friends that you're playing with if you're not there yet.
Exactly. Yeah.
It also...
If you even realize. Sorry.
No. And I didn't. Yeah.
It's also... I think people don't assume that gender is a state of mind more than anything else. for the longest period of time, I grew up believing like gender is bits. It's biology. That's it. That is, you are a girl, you are a boy. That is it. And actually getting into the mindset of what I thought male was flipped everything around for me. Because all of a sudden, the characters I were playing, all of my characters were huge men. That was it. Because I wanted a sense of power, control, and confidence. And looking back, I can say that now with confidence. That was what I was looking for in those characters. But the flip that it was like, oh no, you just have to be male for that. Like, it was a mind fuck for me for a good year.
Right.
But
right. That's very interesting.
But
yeah.
that the identifying that from the get-go, from the start, is not something that comes easily. It's not something I think people tend to dive into. But when you have a table full of people that are willing to play around with different types and different, especially I think a table that is willing to change body sizes in particular, go from small to large to muscular to rounded, whatever it may be, there is even more of a sense that physicality doesn't matter at a table. Everything works eventually. Everything pulls around. And having the, gender affects this. Stereotype, like drilled into your head, and then being able to just sort of dissolve that and go, but no, it doesn't actually. That realization, I think there's a very private way of having that realization, and then a very public way of having it. The private being like, oh, I'm going to start branching out into more characters that I'm more comfortable with, and that challenge that norm a bit more, and then I don't know if this is an experience that everyone else has had, or if it's just like I'm being a big old weirdo.
I think it's very interesting, because even like the path you described into discovering that, like, had you like wanting a sense of power and control and strength and stability and things like that is not necessarily really connected to any one gender, but the fact that so another person who felt securely in like securely safe in a cisgendered like woman place might also want those things, and that might come out in them playing extremely powerful female characters. Like there's like the fact that your brain translated those things for you without you knowing, like it was like you want to play with this, you want to play with this, and that's our answer.
Yeah, I think what was the first character in the TTRPG space that you ever played?
Oh my god. Myself.
There's no shame in it. There's no shame in it.
It's so corny. But I played a game of, what were we playing? We were playing Demmen-Sewell.
Oh wow.
This is also way before I joined the larger hobby space. I played with a group of people who, if you are out there and hear this, sincerely, fuck you, all of you. Yes. You're all terrible people, and I'm glad I never have to see you. However,
get him.
We played a game of Demmen-Sewell wherein we played ourselves, and it was a pretty good game. But it was very like, it was too much. I was not in a good place, nor was I playing with a good group of people to play yourself, because that's a little too raw. The
oh yeah,
because all our characters have a bit of ourselves in them, right? But like doing that without any sort of puppetry or shield, or like padding around the edges with a group of people who are not very good people is too much. It's way too raw.
God.
Yeah.
Right.
And even like from taking that to a completely different setting, even with people who just aren't okay, I guess I can broaden this into exploring really difficult topics with people who are not emotionally ready to handle that
Yep.
is also a
Yeah.
very difficult situation.
Quite. Yes.
Yeah.
I've definitely been
Agreed.
there. It was less about gender and more about emotional vulnerability, and there were too many people who needed too many things that they were trying to get from the TTRP space. But that's a whole nother podcast episode.
Yeah,
'Cause
easily.
that could very easily be an entire different episode. But yeah, it's I think one of the things that's integral is so important. You can do it without it, especially if you're just someone who I'm pretty easily affected by other people's feelings and needs and so on and so forth. But if you're someone who's not, you can do it one way or another. But I think something that's integral to really feeling safe in exploring yourself is feeling as if your table is a safe space. So, you know, adding the extra pile on top of that of, oh, I was playing myself and then I was being vulnerable with these people, that sounds like a nightmare, actually.
Yes, it does.
That sounds terrible. I'm sorry that was your first experience.
That's okay. It's long since passed, and I think I've rubbed their noses in it from afar quite enough. So yeah, I'm good.
I'm still in the space and I'm thriving.
And I'm thriving. Yes.
It's good to perennially put the weed killer down just in case stuff pops up again.
Just in case. I have not forgotten.
Just so you guys know.
Just so you know.
So
have
when
you
you
ever
were... Oh no, sorry, after you.
It might be the same question. It feels like it's leading up to it. Have each of us specifically made a character to play around with that gendered space? Have we deliberately gone, I'm going to try this?
I wouldn't say a character. I would say so many. Like there, you know, in the beginning, there was there was a time when I was first toying and turning this idea around in my head where I exclusively played guy characters. It was like what, you know, I just like dudes of all different shapes, sizes, personalities, whatever. I was trying to like just play with what that meant to me. And now I'm on a kick where I really want to roll the dice with that. I want the characters that I play to be all manner of like gender presentation and identity, because that's what I am. And I find that very fun now. There's something I read somewhere, someone on Tumblr say something that was very, very accurate to my experience, was that for some people, like gender exploration and coming out as non-binary is running as far away from your assigned gender as at birth as fast as you can, and then cautiously approaching it from behind. Like and like that's kind of what
Can confirm
what
yes.
it has been for me. And so I play a lot of lady characters. I even play a lot of like hyper feminine lady characters as well, like really high femme characters, because that is part of like the beauty of gender to me, is that there is like because it is all a construct, all of these things are permissible no matter who you are. So me being a person who identifies more masculine, there is no reason why I cannot play with high femme as well. Like that's because it's all we're breaking these rules because these rules are bad.
Exactly.
So there's that.
I will go last because I feel like mine's kind of convoluted and a bit of a doozy. So, popcorn.
Oh gosh, right, okay. There is a game that I don't think you can play realistically anymore. I don't know though. It's Legend of the Five Rings. If you certainly can't stream it. I don't think, unless no, there is no way. But this was several years ago. And I played I wanted to push the boundaries on what I had been playing, because up until that point I had been very femme presenting, stealthily confident and or anxious, powerful humanoid characters. Generally, that was it. That was pretty much what I stuck to in my lane. We played Legend of the Five Rings, and Legend of the Five Rings has a strong Eastern influence. It also, in the way it sort of is developed and designed, makes it feel like male characters are preferred. It has that sense about it. You are more than welcome to play female characters within it, but the general sense that you get is it is a lot of the art that is involved is male. There are strong female characters, but it feels like the setting just it pushes you towards the male sort of section. So
are they strong via exception? Like, these are exceptional
like
femmes,
magic,
therefore that's why.
It very much came across like that. So I decided, in that sort of way that I was playing at the time, which was control and power in any way I could get it, I was like, okay, I'm going to break this. I'm going to play a large gentleman and have a good time. That's it. I'm not going to make him muscular. I'm going to make him large. And there is a confidence that I developed as him that I have never felt before, and I'll never forget. And it was using my physicality while I was role-playing changed. It was allowing myself to take up space, role-playing, which again at that point I hadn't really done, and asserting my opinion and making it so, but doing it as my guy, as my large brilliant guy. And like his belly rumble, like he would shake, he was sturdy, he was strong, but he was huge. And he changed the way that I perceived not only the ability to roleplay, but myself, because I was this guy. I embodied him. I felt him deep down. Like, I had always been him. I loved being him. And there was this confidence. Yeah. I can't.
Hell yes.
It feels so hard to put into words how shifting. Like, if you've never seen me in person, I'm streaming. I post pictures of myself online, but I am a medium-sized white human female. Terminology, technically, I don't know. But
I get it.
I get it. Flip it on its head and play something completely opposite to that, and then actually finding myself. That was the point in my head that I went, I'm not female. I'm not. That can't be how I identify. If I can so easily slip into this and feel this and be this and have this, I want to have it all. I want everything. Nah, fuck this. I'm out of the box now. I would like all of it. Thank you very much and good night.
I will take one of each, please.
I'll have it all. And since then, it has been nothing but playing around with everything that the toy box has to offer, instead of just so resolutely going, nah, this is my Phillips head screwdriver and I'm sticking to it. That's it. That was.
I'm sure I can hammer this in with a Phillips head. It'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how tools.
I have actually tried. Sometimes you just don't want to go downstairs and get the hammer. I don't know. We're gonna get a little convoluted in this metaphor if I keep going. But
yeah, I'm just waiting for you to run out of rope with it. But it's good.
It's fraying a little.
A little.
Sam, what about you?
Actually, Sam, have you ever played a character that's non-male?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, I don't know, because we've played a couple of games together, but not the ones. I guess they have been playing without me. But okay, fine.
Look, Sam wanted to explore his gender in a different.
Yeah, you can stay out of it. I did.
Childhood friends, man. I mean, what can you say?
I did play a one-shot game as I at the time I was feeling very differently about myself as I am now, and I was not very confident. And I wanted to play someone who's very capable, very confident, and very assured. And I was a like sex positive, very kind of like high, like I felt like she was basically like I played a warlock witch, and she was like very sex positive. She was very assured of herself, and she was just very confident in her capabilities. And she was treated badly by the other players in the table.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was literally going to ask you because go on, because I wanted to ask that. Yeah.
She was very sex positive. Like, you know, she's there like, hey, I'm going to a town and I'm gonna have sex with some sexy people. And I was like ready for that to be like lights out, scene done. And I was like, that's just a throwaway comment. She was hypersexualized. She was punished. There was some like exhaustion mechanics that were inflicted on her. And I was there like,
what?
With me
yeah.
right
And I was there like, come on, no
an
one's that good at sex.
exhaustion
And
mechanic. I would have just,
yeah.
You know what? Okay, listeners, I don't actually encourage violence. I would have punched him in the face right there. Oh my god! I wouldn't have.
It was
but I would
it
have
was an
wanted to.
unfun experience. She was the only female character at the table. Mechanically, fine. But like she was treated poorly. So yeah, good instinct, Dill. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was going to ask because I do note that at some tables, when I choose to play a high femme character, I do note that it is harder for me to get that character taken seriously by other players, even people I tend to enjoy. I think the subconscious bias is exactly what it is, you know, and comes out in people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so depressing. I hope you get to, if you are interested, I hope you get to play a femme presenting or, you know, female character again in a safer space.
Yeah, I do now. The Adamless, I get to play a lovely lady character, and my Adamless crew is very good to me.
Yeah,
That's
they
wonderful.
sound great, and you too, Sam. Like, I mean, obviously you know us, so like,
I did have a great time. I was playing. I was playing the Lancer campaign, No Room for a Wallflower, and the first NPC that they introduce is a trans woman called Brava Hedora, and I basically transplanted that really femme, high, like very capable woman into Brava. She's a soldier, like she's looking after this town, she's doing her best, and like yeah, I got to play parts of that character in that NPC, and it was respected in that space. It was a very different table, so it was nicer to do that. But yeah, it's sometimes it's easier when you're playing an NPC as the game runner to be like, yeah, I can control how this space interacts. So yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Weirdly, like, so with your first experience with your high femme character, what was her name?
You know, I cannot remember. I think I went full tilt witch. I would not be surprised if they were called like Sabrina or like Lilith or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
Call her Sabrina for the time being. Like, after playing Sabrina, how long did it take you to be or to feel comfortable playing? What was the NPC's name? I forget.
It must have been about 4 or 5 years.
Ooh.
And now I'm playing a very different kind. I do a lot of different male characters that are exploring parts of fragile masculinity and kind of like exploring masculinity through different sections of it and going, what does it mean to be a man in this setting? What does it mean to be masculine here? What are their values and what pushes them to various degrees? And I know we're all doing that with most of our characters. We're trying to push them to see where their values are. But I'm trying to latch on to parts of masculinity that are, you know, hard codified into the male psyche and try and break them and stress them and see what happens there.
And right now, Dylan, the three of us are in a Dragonlance campaign, and Sam unintentionally has just basically made Steed Bonnet from our Flag Means Death.
Hell yeah. Okay.
It is delightful.
Great. Love that.
You can be like, oh, we need to go talk to this person. He's like, great, I'll bring some pastries. And someone behind him is like cracking their knuckles and like, oh my god, I didn't mean to actually do it. I'm so sorry if
That
anybody
sounded
is.
so satisfying. Oh my god.
Oh god, I'm over 30.
Well, welcome to the Body Parts and Pain podcast. It's really lovely to
Yes.
have you all here. Before we were talking about knees, now we're back
Yeah.
onto knuckles. Love
Mhm.
I
it.
still am unclear on what knees are.
Nobody knows what knees are. This is an established fact.
This podcast didn't answer that question at all.
Come
No,
at me,
sir.
Hank Green. What are
The
knees?
day we answer that question is the day this podcast ends, and I'm not ready for that. so-
Oh my god.
All right, fine.
All right, that's our new ultimatum. Great. I
CJ.
will try. Thank you, Sam. I will try to make this relatively concise while still getting my point across, because I did not come into my gender exploration through TTRP, but it was there with me the whole time. So I was, in some ways, an incredibly linear kid. I did not realize that you could like people of the same gender as you until I was roughly 13, and a friend of mine told me that she liked another friend. And I went,
Mm-hmm.
oh. And I just, I was very malleable. I wasn't very, I didn't have any preconceived notions about any of those things being good or bad. So I accepted it. But I had a moment of going, oh, wow, that's a thing? Oh, cool.
Yes.
And then I subsequently had another moment where I went, oh, God, I have a crush on her. I set them up because I wanted them to be happy. And that's the kind of child I was. It all through high school, and I touched on this very briefly in the podcast that Sam and I did. All through high school, people would say to me, "You're a gay man trapped in a woman's body." I didn't know what transgender was or any sort of gender exploration at all, but people would say this to me constantly. And I was a bit sassy, and I didn't take things super seriously, I guess is the best way to put it. So I would say, honey, no, I'm a bi man trapped in a woman's body. Because by then I was already very assured that, I liked probably all genders. And, this is the mid 2000s. So this, a lot of the terminology and things that we had later didn't come around right away. And I was like roughly 20 to 22 before somebody was like, hey, being transgender is a thing. And I was like, huh.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
It's amazing how so much of this hinges on just somebody being like, this is a thing.
Yeah.
Did you know?
A passing movie reference can just change everything suddenly.
Hey, did you
Incredible.
get the latest gender DLC? New genders just dropped.
Shit. Yeah, no, it's literally, it's sometimes looking back on it, it is truly wild to me that I did not manage to pick any of this up from my periphery, even though I'm sure some of it was going on. I'm sure there were people of the same gender dating each other. I'm sure somebody I knew was either closeted transgender or, whatever. I'm sure. But it just went straight over my head until someone looked me in the eyes and went, you can be gay. You can be a different gender.
Yeah.
And I went, huh, that's pretty cool.
Neat.
And up until I was about 20, I think, and this is, mind you, I started playing Dungeons & Dragons when I was 11. So I'm going by memory. At the very least, I can say memorable formative characters up until I was about 20 were always female. I always played woman characters. And it wasn't until so this is in a way how TTRP began to come hand in hand with my self-exploration, because it wasn't until someone said that to me in real life I could be a different gender that for some reason I realized, oh, I can be a different gender in fake life too.
Right.
And I got more into this again in the chat with Sam, so I don't feel the need to extrapolate heavily, but I roleplayed online a lot, and the one thing that I did do when I was roughly 16 years old is lie to everyone about my gender online. Which,
Oh man.
and I, it wasn't because, for me, it wasn't the, my voice or my saying I am a female person on games are getting me treated poorly, which is what happened to a lot of people and a lot of why people develop those personas. For me, it was at the time, to me, seemingly arbitrary choice I had made. And in order to keep the lie up, I began to tell people, if they saw pictures of me or whatever, that I was my own twin brother.
Oh, interesting.
So I basically, and I didn't know why I was doing this.
Right.
And unfortunately, it got cut not very short. I perpetuated this probably for the better part of a year, but it got cut short when my girlfriend at the time decided I was a big lying meanie pants and logged online and told everybody that this guy, Josh, did not really exist.
Oh, that's not.
Yeah.
That is traumatic. And
It
a lot
brought
of
it
years.
crashing down. Yeah, it brought
Oh.
everything crashing down for me at that moment, and I had the shame of I didn't know why I did it in the first place, and I was like, "Oh, I'm a big fat liar. Cool," you know?
Right. Why was this so important that I did this?
And why am I so upset that she's done this? Like, objectively, I'm lying, and she just told my friends the truth. So what's the problem? And I didn't get to come back and explore that until my early 20s when I realized that maybe I didn't identify as a woman.
Yeah.
So those are what was happening externally of TTRPGs. In addition to that, until my mid-20s, I was my profession, and prior to that, everything I was studying to become since I was 8 was musical theater.
Yeah.
Where you go to an audition and they tell you that you don't look feminine enough, or you're too short for the role, or you need, or you don't look old enough or womanly enough, or you need to hit XYZ over and over and over. I did eventually leave musical theater for that reason, because the things that they wanted me to be were things I didn't have control over.
It was that controlled and that like pushed on you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, absolutely. Musical theater, especially in that era prior to things like Hamilton and In the Heights, and that diversified musical theater, in many ways, typecasting was incredibly narrow.
Dylan, do you have like a similar? Because you're nodding, going like,
do.
yes. So you have like
I did.
Oh.
I did theater, and I was classically trained all through my college years, and it's a rough. Yeah, I also.
Holy crap!
Just
difficult.
Echo that experience. Yes.
So okay, I want to see if maybe like your cracking out of this, as it were, is kind of similar to one another's, because if it's I find it really, I've never had the opportunity to talk to people who have been in the musical theatre and theatre spaces, both of which have come out and gone, no, gender does not work that way before. So this is really interesting to me. So how did you?
We have a slightly different like experience. We experienced the same thing, reacted to it differently.
Okay,
is what it sounds like to me. So what I experienced was that I was routinely cast as male characters in shows, starting pretty early on and being pretty like explicitly like repetitive. And it was something that I noticed that my peers were always sorry to me about. And I was not understanding why they were sorry. And it didn't click for many years later. And there's like a whole laundry list of other things like that.
When you say that they were sorry for you, like what do you mean?
Like my friends would always be like, oh, it sucks that you have to do that. Oh man, like, you know, I wish we
okay.
had more, you know, I wish we had more guys auditioning so that you didn't have to do that. That sucks. This is so, you
So
know,
put on you like
shitty.
it was like a burden as opposed to an
Yeah, this
opportunity.
was like this.
Okay.
Yeah, this was this shitty, like, ah, man, that sucks kind of thing. And I was like, oh,
Oh, does it?
okay, it does. It's another thing. I've also, I work in healthcare, and there have always been patients, especially patients who are a little more elderly, a little bit in, you know, patients experiencing things like dementia and Alzheimer's, would call me sir, call, you know, like, call, like, who's that boy over there, things like that. And my colleagues similarly would always be, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, their family members even be like, I'm so sorry, miss, I'm so sorry that happened. I'm like,
Like, should I be upset about this?
I
yeah,
don't
like,
hate it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I noticed that, like, it was something that clearly, like, people were consensus was that that was an unfortunate thing to happen to you. And they were right, because if I were you know, a cis woman, they would be misgendering me, so it would
Right.
actually be a negative experience, and was for all of these other people around me, that would be a negative experience. And I was like, well, oh,
And they were empathizing through their own lens, like,
exactly,
oh,
yeah,
this would suck for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so I had only 2 experiences that affirmed anything for me other than you need to be more feminine, you need, etc. And they were both in high school. So this was not in the professional theater. Well, actually, I had one good experience and one terrible the other side experience. The really good experience was my theater director, who saw me in a way that I didn't see me at that point. Like, he was trying to get me to go to a pride parade, not like with him, that would have been creepy, but he was just like, are you going to the pride parade? And I was like, there's a pride parade, like, you know, wow, yeah. And then I was like, Mom, can I go to the pride parade? She's like, no, because and it wasn't even, well, I don't know, but I will say, for my mother has always been worried about safety, and she thought it was not a good area, even though objectively it really is. So I don't know that it actually had anything to do with the rainbow aspect of that, but
Might have, yeah.
Who knows? But we did God and Death by Woody Allen. And there is a character in God and Death who is the writer of the play. So basically, the writer of the play comes in and is like, you know, giving the characters a hard time and giving the audience a hard time. And I was given that role. And he was like,
it's a good role, actually.
I want you to play this as a man. I'm happy for you to be very effeminate, very gay if you'd like. I'm going to sit you down in my office and you're going to watch The Birdcage. And I want you to do a character study on, you know, Robin Williams' character. And that's how I see this character. If you're happy with it, that's how I want to go forward with this. And I was like, absolutely. Yes, this is great. This is awesome. And I had so much fun. But then at a similar time, I did a lot of singing competitions. That was one of my big things. And the Detroit Symphony Orchestra had a competition. And I went to my choir director at the time. His friend was the like private vocal coach that we all had to take. And I went to him and I was like, hi, yeah, I would like to sing Stars from Les Mis. And he was like, I don't know why you're doing that. Your voice isn't right for a man's song. That's a man's song. And you're never going to get any parts if you sing a man's song. And that was the kind of thing that got, even in nicer settings in that era, even with people who loved me and appreciated me for who I was, did have to sit me down and go, you're not going to get a part if you do it this way. You know, I'm sorry. Even my mentors who really loved and appreciated me genuinely, knowing the industry the way it was like, basically conform or you're never going to get it. You're never going to have a job. And that was something that I struggled with. Like,
whenabouts was this? Like, what year are we talking?
2007 to 2010 would have been when I was in my adult, like just barely adulthood,
Okay.
experiencing this. But I was
From
being brought up
Hmm.
even prior then. I started doing theater when I was in my single digits, and all of my mentors, of course, would have been a generation behind as well.
so like
So,
okay, no doubt this has been institutionalized as a way of enforcing gender, but in terms of like what you see with the movements that have been coming through sort of like these days, and with more toolboxes as there are, do you think that theatre these days is as strict with that
no,
enforcement of gender? Like what, like that flip from like mid 2010s
I
when
will
it
say you're still
became,
gonna experience it.
You
yeah,
are. Yeah, it's not
but
like no miracles happen.
no, 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 no. But
But
it's
it's improving.
okay.
So, like noticeably enough that I am returning to the theater space. Hopefully,
Oh, that's rad.
Brilliant.
That
I'm
rules.
I've been doing little
Good
things here and
ending.
there, testing the waters a little bit. But there was two sides to that, and the other side to that is I'm much more comfortable in portraying femininity. So it's
Yeah.
not, yes, the industry has changed in a way that I feel as a human being more comfortable in it. But I'm also willing and able, not even willing, able to do things I wasn't able to do when I was younger. I'm better at makeup. I'm better at portraying what people think a woman is,
So is
things
it
that,
being treated like a gateway, like a launch pad into what you can possibly do now in theatre, as opposed to going back all the way and being like, I must be feminine. This is like a, I'm going to be feminine at first, and then uh,
yes.
that's so. Oh, brilliant!
And there
This
are roles that I could hop into right now that are not designed to be feminine at this point. And
amazing.
there's even been
Hmm.
like, also I will say like, and I hate to bring him up like he's the only person who's ever done anything for diversity in theater because it's simply false. However, like Lin Manuel Miranda has said things like, well, yeah, I'd cast a woman as King George. I'd cast it. I don't care as long as they do the part. So
Yeah.
it's the language around theater is changing, and I know that we've kind of veered slightly into theater here. I would
Well, I mean,
apologize,
they're
but
cousins they're
they
cousins
are
at
Yeah.
least.
cousins.
And
Yes.
if
Yeah.
it's if that sort of mentality is affecting the theatre space, it's definitely had an impact in the TTRPG space. It's
For
changing.
sure.
Everything is impacting one another. The more that one industry is influenced and changed, the more something related to it will be,
Absolutely.
until eventually, hopefully, everything is. And
Yes.
if
And
you guys
I
are
did.
seeing it,
Yeah, I did see that it has changed, and for me, after I was introduced to the concept of being able to be transgender and stuff like that, because someone had to say it to me directly, because that's who I am as a
Exactly.
person. I mostly played male TTRP characters. Now, this is something I want to bring full circle and get some reactions to, because I played pretty much male characters. I was very comfortable, very happy in that, and for a long time, I identified pretty much he, they only. I will say that some of my choices to be more fluid are kind of superficial. I really like women's fashion, and people look at me and think, oh, look, a woman, and I just can't be bothered. And, that's not necessarily a pillar of example, but I've gotten to an age where I'm like, well, shit, whatever. But anyway, so I was playing pretty much exclusively males, but then I entered into two spaces that are directly tangent to TTRPG, one of them being LARP, and one of them being streaming tabletop role playing games. Suddenly, I stopped playing men. And I think I know why I did it. Is because I knew I didn't feel safe to not be misgendered. I didn't feel safe in this public space to say I'm playing a man and not have someone look at me and say she, and how that is going to affect me as a person asking to be identified in a certain way, but someone seeing me and making their own decision. And
Mhm.
in my life, I recognize at this point in my life, those of you who have not seen me, I now present relatively feminine. I have very long hair. I sometimes wear makeup. I'm kind of a small person. So in my day-to-day life, if some stranger or someone I barely know calls me she, it does not bother me. I've come to terms with that. But the idea of choosing to be a male character and having people misgender me over and over and over and over and over, I suddenly started being like, it's not worth it. Now,
It's
from then,
exhausting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did branch into non-binary characters as well, but I've played very few males in both the streaming and LARP space. And
Oh.
I'm wondering how you, like, Dylan, how do you have you had that experience or any feelings like that? And the two of you have any thoughts?
I have. I mean, I have had experiences like that. There was a time for me, because this space is so uh lawless. I will say,
Yeah,
like,
it's the Wild West.
the AP space is very much the Wild West. And so there was a time when I was new to the space that I didn't know when opportunity would just go away. So I took everything. Like,
Right.
anytime anyone asked me to do anything, it didn't matter who you were, I did it. I burned myself out pretty hard doing that. One, from being overworked, but two, because I was not putting in time to vet people that I was playing with at all. And so I
Right.
had a lot more of those bad experiences. I will say, I've only had one experience like that in recent memory. And I had agreed to do the thing without vetting them because it was for charity. And I
Mm.
have now added that to my list. It doesn't matter if it's for charity or not. I am still going to check up on you and see what you're about before
Oh
I
yeah.
do this kind of thing, because I don't have the energy for it anymore.
No.
I'm so blessed to be in a group of people, both in terms of the people I collaborate with, my friends, etc. Like, that I'm so acknowledged and accepted, and I just don't have the energy to go back into that kind of environment anymore. So I
Hell
don't.
yeah. Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, once that egg was cracked for me, I'm like, wow, no, I'm not doing it.
Valid. And I feel like one of the rudest awakenings for me was playing with a group of people who've known me for a very long time, in a private game, not even in streaming or whatever, who are doing the same thing. I'm
Yeah.
playing a male character, a cisgender male identifying male character,
Yeah.
and I'm getting she a lot, and it's really been reinforcing why I haven't been able to be vulnerable enough in a space where people can see my face. Or,
Yeah.
or well, I mean, obviously at other tables people could see my face, but you get used to it in that table and you move forward. But when you add a streaming, you have the whole audience to worry about as well as the players. And how do and approaching it on stream if someone's consistently messing, it's just there's so many layers that I'm just like, oh god.
My experience with that and on stream, and if someone misgenders you on stream, is what a friend told me was the Andy Murray approach. And
Mhm.
it is the minute that they go, oh yes, she does this, you just go, he. And if they question it, they go, what? You go, he. My player is a male character. In the same way that Andy Murray went, male. I am the first male tennis international
Oh yeah,
US
that's
star.
right.
That
Yes.
from that clip where he's just like, "No, I'm just going to correct you because he knows he's right. You know you're right. Just correct them because if they haven't gotten it past yet, or if they are struggling with it, or whatever it may be, whatever the excuse may be, they can go,
Yeah.
oh yes, sorry." And if it
Right.
continues to happen, you're not the one that looks like the dickhead on stream. They are.
That's true. I've
So
very
don't let
much
them get
like
away with it.
I've very much been I always try to like, oh, so she pulls out the paper and I go, yeah, so he pulls out the paper. Like I always
Yeah.
restate it with the correct, but it's like it seems to go over, it's just frustrating. Like
Yeah.
I don't have the answers to everything, but I like that. I really do think that's probably the right. And if you don't do it aggressively and you're just like, he,
Yeah.
you know, like if you're not out for the throat, like then yeah,
It's a personal preference, but like Dylan, do you have any any ways to combat it that you have come across? And you've been streaming and playing much longer than I think a lot of us, but are there any tools or tic tacs
Tactics.
tactics? Are there any tactics that you have for addressing a misgendering in that sort of
My tactic
capacity?
is to correct. You know, my tactic is to correct for me. My tactic is also to correct for other people. So if that person, you know, it's easier if someone else does the correcting for you. It's a little less pressure on you, and so I try to do that as well. The thing is that happens sometimes for non-nefarious,
oh yeah,
ignorant reasons sometimes. And so if it just happens and I have to correct you maybe a few times, that's
right.
whatever.
That is what it is.
But if I note that that the correction is not really sticking and that this is like a repetitive thing, truthfully, my tactic is to politely say goodbye and never work with you again. That's my
Valid,
actual
honestly.
tactic.
Scorched
If it
earth.
is a repetitive thing, you know, like
I think
if it feels malicious, I'm generally
Right.
I would do
then
the
I
same
will
thing.
say,
I'm terrible
would
at picking out whether it's malicious
Yeah.
or if it's an accident, though. Like if they genuinely are just like, no, I'm sorry, because the visualizing it can sometimes be difficult for some people.
Yeah.
Understandable. If you can see them making the concerted effort, yes. But if it's
if I thought it was malicious, I'd probably peace out immediately as well. Yeah.
Oh god, yeah, maliciousness. But if it's just like that accidental, like, God, no, sorry, fuck, I keep doing. I'm terrible with names. I'm terrible with faces. I do it for both a lot.
I think the struggle I have is I've had more than one scenario where I genuinely believe it's not malicious, but they cannot get into their head, and because they're constantly saying she, then other people are starting to say she, and I'm just like, this is not why I play male characters, to be just misgendered constantly.
Yeah.
Like
exactly. And I don't necessarily walk away only when I think it's malicious. I walk away if it's not sticking. If I'm correcting, if I find myself having to correct you all the time, that's just not worth my energy. And I will say, thank you for the great game. Have a wonderful day. I will, I'm not writing a twit longer about it. I'm just not going to work with you anymore.
And when it feels like it's not malicious, but they can't get it, then you don't necessarily, you're not like, oh, you're a bad person, you're a malicious person, or anything like that. But it also, it comes to a point where it affects your own enjoyment of the game. And you're not thinking like, oh, I'm going to go play this character. You're like, oh, I'm going to go play this character and they're going to misgender me all the time. And, and I'm going to have to correct them a million times, or I'm going to have to sit back and eat it and be miserable. And and so it makes sense, honestly, to, gracefully extricate yourself from that situation as well. Luckily, the one that I was in recently there's an end to it, and I probably would not pick back up with that group again. But
I think that is a very healthy way to be dealing with things like that. It as Dylan says, it's not worth your energy, it's not worth your time. And if there's anything I would love for people to take away from this, it's that you are worth every single moment of your own damn life, and you should take up as much space in it as possible and have no time for anybody that says otherwise. So,
hell yeah.
Exactly
that. I could not have said it better.
Dylan, thank you so much for coming and chatting to us today. I feel like we have gone into the depths and the nooks and the crannies of everything and come out with some brilliant ways of both dealing with things like misgenderings and also having a better idea and a clearer idea of how gender in the TTRPG space can be explored and enjoyed by all. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Yes, this was a delight.
And just as fascinating, really, I think that we have probably another, like, we could have another 2 or 3 episodes just on tangents.
Oh my
about
God,
this.
yeah.
Like,
I know.
There's
Yeah.
so much more to explore, but we put out the little taster set, the wine flight
Yes.
of gender into RPG spaces.
And remember,
with
we have a Patreon, so if any of these
Yeah.
are locked
Oh,
behind
yeah.
a paywall, you can come back to us and get them from behind the paywall. That's it. We're forcing you to pay for extra gender discussion. Yeah, I've had a real wonderful time. I think, as CJ said, we could really go the lengths and breadths of kind of gender discussion. So I really appreciate this brief yet nuanced discussion with everyone. I've had a great time.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you so much for coming on, Dylan. It was great to see you and great to have you on here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Massive thanks to Dylan for joining us for this week's episode. The interview had some technical issues and we ran behind, but Dylan was very patient and an absolute wonderful professional and chatted to me and Jess for ages about all sorts of random things. So thank you ever so much, Dylan. We'd love to have you back on the show at some point to talk about more of this, more of your adjacent work, because there's a plethora of projects that we didn't even get to touch that we would love to at some point. So thank you ever so much. That's our second big interview. We're still learning how to do interviews and roundtables and stuff, so we really appreciate you hanging in there and listening to us and kind of exploring the space. It's another part of the podcast that's quite new to me and really exciting. Anyway, to the end, thank you for listening to our show. At the Table has been a Project Headphones production. You can see more of our work over at projectheadphones.com. To support this show, please head over to patreon.com/atthetablepod. To get in contact with the show, please email sam@projectheadphones.com. Also remember to rate, review, share amongst your friends. That's the best way we can get our name out there. We can contact more people. We can talk to more SuperDillins. We can talk to more B. Dave Walters. We can do bigger and more amazing things, which is phenomenal to think about at this stage. Anyway, our music was Captain Scurvy and Space Jazz by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attributions for license. Thank you very much and roll well. Oh yes, and don't forget to check out our sponsored section for your homework by Bohannon Brigade. A little session about prep coming up soon, so it might be worth you going over to them and checking out what they have to offer. Anyway, thank you very much.